He stayed silent when they laughed at him, said nothing when they blamed him, didn't speak a word when they sentenced him. But then he made one phone call, and everything changed. What kind of man can shake a courtroom without ever raising his voice? If that question makes you pause, you're right where you need to be. Let me take you back to the moment he walked into that courtroom. Alone, misunderstood, judged too soon, carrying a truth no one saw coming. The old door creaked open and a quiet hush swept through the room. A few people looked up. Most didn't. Men like him didn't get much attention anymore. Still he walked in, not fast, not slow, not nervous, but sure, like time itself made room for him, like no one in that courtroom had the right to rush what he had come to do. His name was Robert Bobby Clay. He was 79 years old. His body was still strong, the kind of strong that comes from years of carrying heavy things not just on your back, but in your life. He wore a dark green flannel shirt, neatly pressed but clearly old. His pants had been through many winters. His boots, cracked at the seams, were still shined with care. They belonged to a man who refused to show up anything less than complete. In his weathered hand, he held a soft, creased felt hat, not for style, but memory, the way a soldier holds a folded flag. As he reached the defense table, whispers began, not loud, not direct, but like they always were. Another squatter. Here we go again. Why waste time on this one? Robert Clay didn't respond. He'd heard it all before, at bus stops, in waiting rooms, at doors he once helped build, but was no longer welcome at. He placed his hat on the table, folded his hands and lifted his eyes, not to the judge, not to the ceiling, but straight ahead. Still. Steady. The court record said he was guilty of staying on property that had been condemned. To them, he had broken a rule, but they didn't know the truth. He had only sat for less than an hour on the porch of a house he had built with his own hands, the house where his wife once sang their daughter to sleep, where he painted the trim every spring until his joints couldn't handle ladders anymore, where he held his wife's hand the day she left this world. On paper, the porch no longer belonged to him, but the land remembered, and so did he. Robert Clay hadn't brought a lawyer. He hadn't called in help. He came alone, not because no one would stand with him, but because no one else should carry this moment for him. He didn't look down when Judge Harold Baxter walked in. He didn't squirm when his name was read. He had faced judgment before, in bigger rooms for smaller reasons. But this time, he wasn't here to defend himself. He was here to see if the system still had the strength to meet his eyes. What no one in that room knew was that Robert Clay, the man they barely noticed, held inside him the original idea of what justice was meant to be. Judge Baxter adjusted his robes like someone going through the motions. He opened the case file with the lazy flip of a man who thought he'd seen it all. Clay Robert, 79, charged with unlawful occupation of city property, he read flatly. He gave a half smile. Another case, same story. His voice wasn't cruel, it was worse. Bored. And boredom can strip a man down to nothing. Let me guess, the judge said, not even bothering to look up. No address, no lawyer, no steady job, no respect for the law you keep breaking. Robert didn't move. At the clerk's desk, Sophia Patel paused. Something in the judge's voice made her glance at the man sitting at the defense table. There he was, Robert Clay, and something in her memory stirred. A younger man in a city meeting room, shirt sleeves rolled up, pointing proudly at blueprints. She shook her head. No, it couldn't be. Still she kept looking. Judge Baxter gave a grunt. We don't have time for this, Mr. Clay. We need efficiency. This docket is full of people who think property rights are just feelings. At last the judge looked up and narrowed his eyes at Robert Clay. But he didn't see a veteran. He didn't see a builder. He saw what he expected. An old black man, tired and alone, on the wrong side of the law. Let me be very clear, Judge Baxter said, leaning forward. The city owes you nothing. Memories don't equal ownership. The courtroom stayed silent. The kind of silence that gives quiet approval. No one stepped in. No one spoke out. Except maybe in the way Robert Clay sat. Not slouched in defeat, but firm, steady, as if simply being there was its own kind of stand. Sophia Patel looked back at the court file. She murmured to herself, "This isn't what it looks like. He's not who they think he is." Judge Baxter cleared his throat. "I'll make this quick, Mr. Clay. You've got 2 minutes. Say whatever you want before sentencing." Robert didn't stand. He didn't pull out a speech. He just lifted his eyes, calm and unshaken, and said, "I'll speak when you're ready to listen." The judge leaned back with a smirk. He reached for the gavel lazily, like swatting away something beneath his notice, but in the quiet that followed, the room shifted, just a little. That uneasy stillness right before the ground moves. The judge snapped, "Mr. Clay, are you answering or wasting time?" Robert blinked slowly, then spoke in a voice so calm it made the air seem thinner. "That house, it used to be mine. I helped build this city." The judge chuckled. "You built the city? That's a good one." Across the room, young journalist Daniel Cortez was ready to type something sarcastic. "Old man says he built the city." Cue courtroom laughs, but something in Robert's voice made him pause. It didn't sound like bragging, it sounded like remembering. Robert went on. "I held a pencil before I held a book. I built walls to hold the broken, rooms for grieving, places where people took their last breaths in peace." His voice stayed quiet, but every word landed like a stone. "I built spaces meant to heal. Now I sit in walls that judge." The courtroom didn't gasp. It just breathed slower. Sophia Patel blinked fast. A memory clawed its way forward. Daniel Cortez lowered his phone. Judge Baxter tapped the case file, uneasy. "So what? You think your past excuse is breaking the law?" Robert looked at him with no anger, just a deep tiredness. "No, sir, I'm saying the law forgets." The words hung in the air, heavier than the gavel. Judge Baxter muttered about feelings, then slammed the gavel down. 30 days in county jail. The sentence landed hard, flat. Robert didn't react. He checked his old watch, looked up, and asked, "May I make one phone call?" The judge sneered. "To who?" "Your old drinking buddies." Robert didn't answer. The law said he could make a call. A bailiff handed him the phone. He didn't fumble, didn't search. He dialed from memory, lifted the phone, and said 3 words. "It's time now." He returned the phone, calm as ever. No one knew what he'd just started. Then, outside, click, 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 heels on marble. Steady, certain. The courtroom doors opened with slow authority. A woman entered, tall, poised, wearing a plain black suit. No bright colors, no excuses, no need for fanfare. Her name was Carmen Clay, Robert Clay's daughter. She walked with a quiet confidence that didn't ask for permission. No one stopped her, not the bailiff, not the judge. She walked to her father, placed a hand gently on his shoulder. No words were spoken. From her jacket, she pulled a slim leather folder. She set it down on the defense table. Not with drama, but with certainty. Inside were documents, property records, city commendations, architectural licenses, all signed, all sealed, all official. Each page told the real story. Robert Clay hadn't trespassed. He had come home. Judge Baxter's mouth moved, but no words came right away. Then Carmen finally spoke. "My father wasn't asking for favors. He wasn't asking for sympathy. He just wanted to sit on the porch he built." Every word cut through the courtroom, peeling back layer after layer of assumptions and ignorance. When the judge finally spoke, "Motion granted?" It didn't sound like kindness. It sounded like surrender. No one clapped. No one cheered. The room exhaled, as if breathing for the first time. Robert Clay stood. Slowly, he picked up his old felt hat and placed it on his head with care. He walked out, not proud, but truthful. At the door, he paused, turned just slightly, and said, "Start listening." Start seeing. No anger, no spite, just a reminder. From a man too large for a courtroom to hold. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive with thunder. It walks in, quietly, in worn leather boots, carrying memory and the lasting weight of dignity.